Hello, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Wagner. This is week 8 of our recordings and the 8th week of school. It's amazing how fast that goes. We are going to do some leaf rubbings this week. I would like you to please make sure that before you even watch this video, the video Mrs. Wagner makes, you would watch the video on warm and cool colors again. Every time we have a class, I usually review what we're working on and the concept that I want you to think about, or the idea, which is kind of the same thing as a concept. Concept's a big word. So the concept this week is warm and cool colors. We're going to try using them on and add color to our leaf rubbings today, but we're going to do the fun part of rubbing the leaves first, and then we'll add a little bit of color. Hopefully you have a bunch of trees in your yard that are all different kinds. Mrs. Wagner has 3 trees that are the same. So I have a maple leaf. They're pretty. They have a really nice shape on the outside of them. I think I'm going to use this one because that one's kind of tight. I can't see all that space in between there, so I'm going to move that to the side. I like how it's open and you can see that nice interesting shape. I also have hydrangea leaves. I like these leaves even though the outside shape is a little bit boring. I really like the veining. The veining is really deep. That just means that you could really feel it's very bumpy. The veining on the maple leaf is not quite as bumpy, except the main leaves, or the main veins that feed the leaf. They're bumpy, but these are not quite as bumpy. So the hydrangea leaves really make a nice design. You can really see each one of those veins all the way down to the tip of the leaf. So please try to get at least 2 different shaped shape leaves. If you can't, then we'll just have to work with 2, like Mrs. Wagner is doing. I'm going to take my large maple leaf. I'm going to turn it off to the side. I don't want it perfectly straight. I always like things a little bit of an angle. Makes it a little bit more exciting. I'm going to put it under my paper. The first time I did this, I used the thick paper that we have in school. Was too thick. You couldn't feel all the veins underneath the paper, so my crayon wouldn't be able to make a rubbing for it. So it was just kind of a blob. So don't use anything that's too thick. I have a brown crayon. I had extras. You know how we have at school, we have a lot of extra crayons that we have around. There was a brown one that was already peeled. I used it. I broke it into a small piece, no smaller than an inch, but too big, like twice as long, is too much, because then you'll have too much extra crayon to rub on the paper around it. You want to keep it small. You're using the side, not the tip, the side of the crayon when you're rubbing. So hold it between your thumb and your two first fingers. I'm going to have to move my paper to see what direction. There it is. Right here is the tip of one edge of that leaf. So I'm going to start rubbing. I am not pushing hard at all. I'm just kind of rubbing it over top, seeing where the edge of my leaf is. Very lightly. You see I have light marks here, but when we add color later, you won't really notice those. If you press too hard, they might get a little bit darker. So that's why we're pressing very light. And this way I can see the shape, see where the outline is, and then I can always go back over later. Once I get a good outline, then I can add a little more pressure. Now I'm going to add a little more pressure because you can see the outline. And then I can add it just in the area that I know my leaf is, and I won't have extras on the page. I'm going to turn my crayon so I get close to that main vein, and I can push a little bit harder, and I can get that way the veins start getting a little bit darker. You can see there more veins are showing because I can push a little bit harder, and I know where it's at. Okay, well, it's pretty good. There we go. There's my first one. I'm going to move my paper, and I'm probably going to do 3 rubbings of this leaf because it has so much interest. That's more interesting than this. So I'm going to do 2 more of this. I'm not going to do them in the same direction. That would be kind of boring. So I think I'm going to turn this one. And I don't let them overlap. So I'll lay my leaf down and I'll move my paper so that it's not going to overlap. I'm going to look underneath the paper and make sure that I don't have one on top of the other, because it would be very confusing if all you're seeing is lines and then the lines of two leaves overlapping. It'll just look like a bunch of lines. And I don't care if part of the stem goes off the page. That's not important to me. It's also kind of nice sometimes to just have part of the object on the page. That's like a design idea. People like to have parts of an object go off the page, so it gives you that feeling that you're just seeing part of something, that there's more to it that's just not on the page. So here's that outline, pretty close. I got those two sides. This one's pretty good. Here it is. Okay, now I know the outline. I can push a little harder. Here's my center stem, pushing a little harder, and I'm turning my crayon so it's going along the veins, and then I can get a little more of those details of the little tiny veins that are showing. They don't really stick out much, so I have to kind of rub a little bit harder, but I'm staying inside the leaf shape while I'm rubbing. If you have an adult that can help you, they can show you, that would be great. Or you can do this and you can show them. It's always nice to be the teacher. The adults in your family would love to see you teaching them something about art, I'm sure. Okay, there's two leaves rubbed. I'm going to probably put one up here, but I'm probably going to have some of the leaf hanging off, because remember, I don't like to have them, I don't want them to touch. It'll get too confusing. So I'm going to put it up. Maybe I'll have it go this way, so I have part of the tip. I'll go that way. I'm going to lift it to make sure they're not overlapping. Oops, that's looking good. And again, very lightly. When you're first rubbing, you got to do it light. It doesn't take that long. So patience is something you have to have with art, right? Take your time. I got the outline. I can see the outline. I'm missing a little bit here, so that's because it's going off the page. So I'm going to rub a little bit harder now, but just the parts that are next to the big veins. I'm not rubbing real close to the edges of that leaf because I don't want to have too many marks on the paper that aren't from leaves. Well, that looks good. I think I need a little more rubbing here. I didn't have a lot of veining on there. That looks good. Now that's better. Okay, I have 3 of the maple leaves. I'm going to move those off to the side. Now I'm going to do a couple with the hydrangea. I might make it look like I'm not having it perfectly like, nature dropped them. I might place these and have them closer together. So here I am rubbing very lightly again, but this is a very bumpy leaf. You see already, I can see a whole lot of detail just by rubbing it gently. Now I'm going to push a little harder. It's not a very big leaf, so I can go close to the edge. There's one. I think I'm going to put another one and have the ends look like they're together on the branch. Watch, you'll see what I mean. I placed this one like it didn't just land and get blown there from the wind. I put them like they, you know how when they grow on a bush next to each other, because this leaf is from a bush, not a tree. They were close together. When I picked them off, they were right next to each other. That's okay. I'm not sure I like that any better than I like having them randomly. So I think I'm going to do this next one random. I have a little bit of it coming off the page. Rub it again gently at first to see where the edges of my leaf are. Then I'm going to push a little harder, only in the space where the leaf would be. I don't want to get extra crayon on the paper that I don't want. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to turn this one the opposite direction. I'm going to go this way maybe. Rub it gently. Since it's so small, I'm going to have to do a couple of rubbings. Maybe another one down here because there's some white space down there. Now I have the outline, so I can push a little bit harder. Okay, and I think I'll have this one go this direction, and I'll have the back end of the leaf off the page. Gently rub. So I have the outline, then I'm going to push a little harder to get a little more veining showing. Okay. I think I like that. That is what I'm going to do with that's just the rubbing of the leaves. I haven't added any color yet. Now I have a whole container of crayons. Now you're allowed to use the tip of the crayon because you want to get inside of there. I'm going to do my warm colors. Remember the video. The video talked about warm colors and cool colors. My leaves are going to be warm colors. So that is, warm colors are things like the sun. The sun makes you warm when it's on you. That's a warm color. The colors that you would see maybe in a bonfire, if you've ever had a bonfire with your family or friends, you'll see like they pile up a bunch of wood and they put it on fire and you roast marshmallows, things like that. Those flames in that fire are reds, oranges, and yellows. So these are our warm colors. So I'm going to start adding color to just the leaves, not the background, only my leaves. Now I don't have to just use one color. I'm starting with my lightest shades. I'm doing a very light orange, and I'm not pushing real hard because I want to add layers. I want to do a little bit of red to this. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to this. So this is kind of like my medium shade of orange, because there's a darker orange, and then I've got yellow that I could use. I like to turn my paper when I color. It's easier to turn my paper than my arm, right? That makes sense. So just very lightly putting a little bit of orange on there. Because really, if you look at all the leaves that are on the trees, they're turning beautiful, beautiful colors, but they're not usually just one color. Here's red orange. I'm going to put a little bit of red orange on this side, and I'm taking my time. I'm not scribbling. I'm putting a nice little layer, can go different directions. Staying inside the leaf shape, not scribbling out here, staying inside. So I'm using my fine motor skills. That means all the muscles in my hands are working. My thumb is holding my crayon against my pointer finger and my middle finger. So take in your time. I'm going to stop adding too much red orange because I want part of it to be red orange. I saw one of the leaves on my tree at home, like half of it was red and orange and the other half was yellow and orange. It's like it stopped changing colors halfway. So I'm going to add a little bit of, what is that color? It says dandelion. It's a very bright yellow. I'll put that over here on this side. You can see it adds a lot of brightness. I'm going to add a little bit over here too. Fill in some of the spaces. Add a little bit to the tip of that one. A little more over here. And I think I really do want a little bit. This is violet red. I want just red. Violet red's a little bit pinker. I want red, real close to the stem. Like maybe it's getting its color from the stem. Like if the color is coming from this stem and going out. I'm just using my imagination right now. I don't think that's a scientific reason, but it certainly is interesting. Makes it interesting to add color. like I needed a little bit of orange, a little more orange over here. So I'm going to darken this just a little bit. I'm going to get that yellow, and I'm going to push hard so get a little more brightness in there. There. That's one leaf. I have layers. I have daffodil. I have a light orange, yellow orange. I had a red orange in there and a red, all in one leaf. You're going to do that with all the rest of the leaves. I'll do one of the small leaves. I think I'll do that. Start with red orange, very lightly. I'm not pushing hard. Putting a nice little layer. You know how you just hold the crayon and rub it back and forth. I'm not pushing at all. So I get a little bit of color, not a lot. Where's my orange? I'm going to get a regular orange. This is a little bit darker than that, but not quite as dark as that. I'm going to put a little more color, like the regular orange, closer to the stem. I'm just thinking of and changing up my leaves, because every leaf out there that's fallen from trees that are laying in your grass, none of them are the same. So I'm trying to make them look a little different. And then I'm going to get that yellow, bright yellow this time on the tips to go with that red orange, but I just want a little bit of yellow on the tips. That looks good. Maybe I'll do red on that stem so that you can see the stem. That's pretty. Okay, there's 2 leaves. You're gonna do all the leaves with your warm colors, all of these colors, all varieties of yellow, all varieties of orange and red, because this one is more of a violet red, which is a little bit pinker. So these are your warm colors. Your leaves will be warm colors. Now your background is going to be cool colors. I have dark green, light green, well, I'll get a better one than that. That doesn't even have a point. A little more of that. Dark blue, that's like indigo, is a dark blue. And I want a turquoisey blue because I got one of them. So I have the dark green, that's like grass green. This is like lime green. This is a blue purple. Remember, violet purple is made with red and blue. When you have a lot of, this says blue violet, when you have a lot of blue in it, it's a very dark purple. So that's a cool color. This is red violet. So this means there's a lot of red in this purple. So it's a warm color. So we're using the purple that is a cool color. And I think we have just about every color blue. There's a lot of colors of blue. Black is also a cool color, so is gray. But I don't use black a lot because sometimes black can take over and you can't see anything else but black. But I'm going to keep it anyways. I might want a little darkness somewhere. The background, that is the outside of the leaves, are what we're going to do with these colors. I'm going to start with cerulean. It's a lighter blue. I'm doing it very light again, lightly putting color around the outside of the leaves. I don't want to color any of those leaves. I want to do the outline. I want to go get the background part. I'm going to go just around a couple of the leaves. And again, I'm not just pressing super hard to be done with one color. I want to layer. Using crayons, most of the time when we color, we just color. We don't think about layering. Well, today, we're in art class. We're going to think about layering. You know how when we're using watercolors, you can put a couple of colors together and come up with a new one. Well, today we're going to try to do that with our crayons. So here is, I'll stop right around here. I want to have enough that it shows you that we're doing the whole area around the leaves. I'll just go to the edge of the paper here. And this is really, like I said, just the first color. But you got to be careful. I'm going real careful around the leaves because there's a lot of little pointy areas, and I don't want to cover over them. I like that part. That was my favorite part of the leaf that had those points. So that's one blue. Maybe I'll add a little bit of this light lime green or yellow green. And again, I'm going super slow. And you can see it's just adding a little bit of green to it. A little bit of yellowish green. But because it's with the blue, it's still a cool color, even though it's yellow green. And yellow is a warm color. I think the green is more prominent. It's the important part of the color. So it makes it stay cool. Very light, just going on very lightly, adding a little bit of that color. So let's do a little bit of this blue violet. I'm going to turn the paper so I go in the opposite direction so that all my lines aren't going in the same direction. Very lightly. I'm not pushing hardly at all. So I don't have darks and lights of the same color. I'm trying to just add a little bit of color. But you can see it's cool colors. It's definitely the opposite of the warm colors. The cool colors should go in the background. They should stay in the background. The warm colors should pop out at you. That's what warm colors do. They come forward in a painting or a drawing, and the cool colors stay in the background. I might add a little bit of dark green next. Let's try it. This will be my last color that I add. I could go along the edges. I'm afraid that if I do too much dark next to the edges, then I'll lose the nice detail that the leaves have. I think each time you add a color, you have to press a little bit harder because you have so much color on there. The first color I did lightly. The second color a little bit harder. You press a little bit harder. But you still can see all the colors. I still see green in there. I still see some purple. I still see some blue. So that is your cool colors. Having a wonderful time doing this. Remember to watch the video and to have and then remember to take the little quiz. There's always that 1 question quiz, and it'll be about warm and cool colors again, because we're still talking about warm and cool colors, and maybe it'll be, or maybe it'll be something about the leaf rubbing. It'll be a very simple little question, but please remember to take that quiz too, so that lets Mrs. Rosie or Mr. Wilson know that you are participating in the classes and you're still doing it. The real grade that you get for Mrs. Wagner's art class is your artwork. So you need to send me a picture of your artwork, have the adults in your family take a picture, and they can send it, because I think most everybody's got iPhones. You can send it to Mrs. Wagner's school email, which is lynn.wagner@agasd.org. It's the school district's emails, but it's lynn.wagner is my name. Thank you very much, boys and girls. I enjoyed this.